Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to break down the actual fascinating data behind income, lifestyle creep, and those exact invisible financial thresholds that literally change your life. You know that feeling, standing in the grocery store, keeping a running total in your head? And let's be real, you aren't doing it because you're some budgeting savant who just loves color-coded spreadsheets. No, you're doing it because you genuinely don't know if your card is going to get declined. So you quietly put the name brand cereal back on the shelf. But then, maybe years later, you realize you just tossed whatever you wanted right into the cart without a single spike of panic at checkout. Well, today we're mapping out exactly how and when that quiet little shift happens.
Okay, so let's dive right into this central paradox. Why doesn't hitting a massive salary magically cure all your financial anxiety? Because here's the secret about money that trips up so many of us. It doesn't actually get better gradually. It gets better in very specific jumps. And if you don't know where those jumps are, honestly, you can earn more every single year and still feel exactly as stuck as the day you first started working.
We see this all the time, right? You've got people pulling in 200 grand who are stressed out of their skulls, and then folks making 70 grand who seem totally wonderfully fine. It's wild, but it just proves that controlling the gap between what you earn and what you spend matters way more than just your gross income. A bigger paycheck? Well, a lot of times it just buys you a bigger version of the exact same fear.
To really understand how this happens, we have to introduce our main villain. We'll call it the treadmill. It's this invisible force of inflation and lifestyle creep that constantly accelerates to just eat up your raises, your bonuses, and all your hard work. Every single time you step up your income, the treadmill quietly dials up the speed, keeping you sweating and running in place without you even realizing it.
So here is our map for today's explainer. 1. The money treadmill. 2. Level 1. The drowning line. 3. Level 2, the decision tax. 4, Level 3, buying back time. And finally 5, escaping the lifestyle creep. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The money treadmill. Let's meet Kyla and check out the invisible force keeping her stuck. Now, Kyla here represents the average working adult grinding away while that treadmill speeds up. Take a look at a typical Tuesday in Kyla's life, making a $46,000 salary. On paper, she's a totally functioning adult with a job, a car, and a kid. But in practice, well, she's skipping the coffee she actually wants for the cheap gas station stuff. At lunch, she's tilting her phone screen down so nobody at the table can see her nervously checking her bank balance before she taps her card. And when her kid asks for a $35 field trip, she says we'll see, which we all know really means no, because that $35 absolutely has to stay in the account just in case the check engine light comes on. At this income, Kyla isn't budgeting. She's just constantly doing survival math in her head to avoid a declined card.
Which brings us to Section 2, Level 1, the drowning line, getting your head above water.
The reality is, the median household in America right now is balancing right on the edge, somewhere between breathing and sinking. Just notice the staggering volume of Americans who would be completely derailed by a minor expense. 37% of adults cannot cover a surprise $400 bill with cash. I mean, really think about that. $400 is a dead car battery. It's a quick trip to urgent care. It's just the stuff the universe throws at you on a random Tuesday. And for over a third of the country, that is a full-blown crisis.
And that vulnerability, that fear of a $400 bill, makes brutal sense when you realize this number, $8,000. That is roughly what the median savings account in this country holds. We aren't talking about the ultra-wealthy or the totally broke, but right in the middle. 8 grand is literally all that stands between the median American household and total chaos.
So what happens when Kyla claws her way up to $58,000? She gets a couple of raises, maybe a slightly better job. Now, it's not life-changing lottery money by any means, but suddenly there's a small pile of cash sitting in an account that exists solely to absorb the universe's punches. The absolutely crucial point here is that crossing level 1 isn't about buying a boat or taking luxury vacations. It is simply about killing the fear of drowning. That $400 emergency, it stops being an apocalypse and just becomes annoying. She can finally exhale.
Now on to Section 3, Level 2, the decision tax. This is all about the evaporation of the daily referendum.
To really get this level, we have to correct a massive pop culture myth. For years, everybody quoted this 2010 study saying happiness just magically plateaus at $75,000. But the data evolved. By 2021, new research showed happiness actually keeps climbing with income, with no plateau at all. Then, in 2023, researchers combined forces and realized that the original $75K, when you adjust it for inflation, is now well over $100,000. The magic number where money stops buying daily happiness didn't just disappear, it grew up and moved straight into six figures.
So as Kyla grinds her way up to $118,000, she finally enters this second level. See, at level 1, she paid the decision tax constantly. Groceries or the dentist, new tires or the field trip. But here, that tax just evaporates. The dishwasher dies, and it's just a quick phone call to a repairman, not a 5-alarm family crisis. Level 2 doesn't make Kyla a millionaire, but it makes her wonderfully, beautifully unbothered. All because she no longer has to hold a tiny referendum for every single purchase she makes.
But, you guessed it, here is exactly where the treadmill ambushes you again. Because the baseline costs of a normal middle-class life have become completely unhinged. You hit six figures and still feel weirdly stretched. Why is that? Well, childcare for one kid is over $13,000. Family health insurance runs $27,000 a year. And let's be honest, your gross income is kind of a fantasy number anyway, right? Nobody lives on their salary, they live on what's left over after the government takes its cut. Your $100K salary hits your bank account as something much closer to $74,000.
To put a really sharp point on how crazy the treadmill has accelerated, just look at this. 11. This staggering number represents the incredibly few major housing markets left in the entire country where a median income can actually afford a median home. Just a few years ago, back in 2020, that number was 39. The map of places a normal family can buy a normal house literally lost nearly 3/4 of its pins in a blink of an eye.
Let's move to Section 4, Level 3, Buying Back Time, when work becomes optional.
This final threshold breaks all the rules, because it isn't actually about your salary at all. No, it requires a massive mental shift, transitioning from income to assets. Check out the stark difference in this 5-year asset growth. The stock market grew around 109%, while a typical home value grew about 25%. If your money's just sitting around in cash, you live in the 25% world. If it's invested, you're living in the 109% world. It's the exact same 5 years, but completely different financial planets.
So, to kill the ultimate fear, that deep, gnawing fear of being dependent on a paycheck forever, you apply this simple formula, famously known as the Rule of 25. You just calculate your annual living expenses and multiply that number by 25. It's that simple. If your life costs $80,000 a year, you need roughly $2 million invested. And at that exact point, your money starts generating your income for you. You are officially off the leash.
Which brings us to our last section. Section 5, Escaping the Lifestyle Creep. The real prize is the gap. To truly win this game, we've got to understand why so many high earners are still incredibly stressed out. Look at this trap. 44% of people earning over $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. And even wilder, 40% of people earning over $500,000 feel like they still can't get ahead. Massive salaries, a lot of the time, just buy massive, expensive dependencies. Why? Because luxuries constantly, quietly reclassify themselves as necessities. A bigger house, a nicer car, it's just the treadmill showing off its most cunning form. So if you're sitting there feeling behind despite doing absolutely everything right, you really need to understand the treadmill's ultimate trick. Prices are up roughly 25% since 2020. Every single financial threshold we've talked about today climbed right along with those prices. You aren't running slower. You aren't failing. The treadmill just sped up without telling you, drastically moving the goalposts further away.
When you finally hit level 3, money fundamentally stops reducing your stress, simply because there are no financial fears left to slay. So what does the extra money actually buy at that point? Time. Ultimately, the goal isn't just to hoard some giant number in a bank account. It's buying back your own time so you can sit at your kitchen table at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday entirely by choice, working only because you want to, not because you have to.
I want to leave you all with this final, vital thought. Stop chasing an arbitrary number and ask yourself this. Which fear is actually running your life right now? Is it the drowning, the decision tax, or the paycheck leash? Identify it, pin it down, so you can aim absolutely all your energy at killing the exact fear that is keeping you on the treadmill today. Because the real prize isn't a fancy boat or a massive net worth, it's that beautiful silence where the fear used to be. Keep pushing forward, and I'll see you in the next explainer.